Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. We're going to wait a couple minutes for everyone to join since we're just a couple minutes early. I'm Nancy Franklin, your host for this, and I'm here with Lee Bentch, who's my right hand, and we'll be compiling all of your questions for us to answer after the presentation. So give yourself a couple minutes, get a refreshing beverage, settle in for what we hope will be an informative and wonderful presentation.
Sure. And so to all the participants, if somebody could send me a text in the chat room just to confirm that you guys can hear us, that would be awesome. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So I am in Texas and Nancy is in California.
Yes, where it's very hot, surprisingly. All right, Lee, is everyone kind of clicked in? We're about 30 seconds away from our start.
It appears so. Yeah, we've got close to 40 people here standing by.
Great, welcome everyone. Well, let's get started. We have a half an hour. My name is Nancy Franklin, and I'm here with Lee Bentch. Lee and I are writers and podcasters for the publication Crow's Feet: Life as We Age. As we go through our presentation today, which is finding your writing voice, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. We'll have time to answer them at the end of the presentation. Lee is going to keep track of them. So with that said, let's get started because we only have a half an hour. So voice is an expression of you on the page. It's what makes your writing come alive. It's your originality. It's your personality. It can be the way you speak or not, but it's who you are and how you want to communicate with the world. And it takes on a certain style. It takes on a certain rhythm, but it all comes from you. And that's your voice to find. The elements of voice are a little more difficult. It's determined by what you are writing. Are you writing to educate or entertain? It's your word choice. If you're using words like torn versus tattered, if you're using lust for revenge or thirst for revenge, these are all ways that you can manipulate your voice. Technical writers, obviously, you're using more technical language, where they're incorporating the language that's used in the industry, i.e. servers and Wi-Fi. Details are what you're putting in there and how you're using the details. It's how you describe something. And consider that you're using all 5 of your senses when you write. You're looking for what something feels like, what it smells like, what it looks like, what you hear. And it's how you describe those things in your writing that makes your voice come alive. The order and length of punctuation and words and sentences, and also how many syllables are in the words you're using. Are you using big words, obscure words, or simple words? We'll get an example of this, and you'll see very clearly how 2 different writers that I'm sure you're all familiar with have chosen to write the same thing. The syntax, the order, length, and punctuation of the words, your tone. Are you trying to achieve a certain mood? My stock and trade, my voice happens to be on the humorous side. It's usually satirical, touch of sarcasm. My husband describes it as being a way of taking the world, looking at it, and twisting it a quarter turn. And that has become my voice. And what's your perspective on things that you're talking about? That's also an element of your voice. So if you like something, dislike something, believe in something, don't believe in something, find something amusing, it's the tone you're taking with the story you're telling or your perspective. And then, of course, the subject matter. What are you writing about? Are you writing about history, or writing about something very personal, something that hurts you? These are all things to keep in mind as your elements. So this is where you can see very clearly two writers, and I've used Ernest Hemingway and Toni Morrison to compare voices of two very distinct writers. So you'll notice in Ernest Hemingway that it's very sparse, it's very spare. It's he walked down the road. He didn't, dance down the road. He didn't flutter down the road. He just walked. And you can see where it's just the basics, the facts, what you're looking at. It's very spare. By comparison, Toni Morrison's voice is a lot more intricate. It's a lot more steeped in imagery. Its memory crept through the floorboards as he crossed the threshold, each step summoning the voices that once danced in the space. These are two very different writers with two very different voices. And not that you should be copying any of these, but I think when you end up writing certain pieces and about certain subject matters, you'll find your voice in how you describe those things. But I thought these two were very distinct and show very distinct voices and styles. So how to find your voice? Reflect on your life experiences. Everyone says write what you know, but I believe that that's also true, but also imagine what you don't know. Use your imagination to think about how it might feel to fall into ice cold water, to be lost in the woods, to taste something for the very first time and have it be something you either really like or you don't like. Describe the worst experience that happened in your life. So think about your life experiences. What stands out? How do you feel about it? Do you want to tell others about it? You may not, but I would then encourage you to look at writing as being honest, because your readers will notice when you're being honest. So can you be honest about it? And then imagine how your readers might feel about what you're doing. And analyze the type of writing you enjoy. You probably have authors that you're drawn to, authors that make you laugh, make you cry, make you introspective. If you're drawn to those authors, you probably have a voice that might be similar to those. So what are they writing that you like? Do you like how they describe things? Do you not like it? Do you find it tedious? Do you want to be more spare in how you write things? And so think about this. It's either what we're writing about or the way we're writing about it. So consider the sentence structures of Hemingway and Morrison. And then again, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. Writing is a lot of practice. I know a lot of people say write every day. I'm not convinced you have to do that, but I think it's important that you practice your writing. You get comfortable with how you're putting words on a page. And when you start to get comfortable with how you're putting words on the page, I think you'll discover that you found your voice. Okay, love and hate writing exercises. I thought these would be helpful in terms of giving you a point of where to start, because I find that when I'm writing things that are really emotionally keyed into myself and into my feelings and my experiences, I usually tend to write better and stronger imagery and words that people will truly care about. So write about something you truly hate. Consider your language, consider your syntax, consider your point of view. Why do you hate it? What about it do you absolutely hate? What words would you use in that phrase? Would they be short, snappy words that, that yank at your heart, or would they be, like a snake, just writhing around on the page and it's something that's wicked and you hate it? And then it's just a really interesting exercise. See if you can write it from a satirical point of view. Can you make it funny so that somebody's saying, well, does she really hate this? Or is she describing something that she really hates, or something that she thinks she hates, but she's really writing it as if she likes it? And then do the reverse. Write about something you love. Notice how you describe it. Are your words warm and gentle and soft? Or is this a different kind of love, a violent love, an all-encompassing obsessive love? So again, consider the words, try different forms, try making it a satire, um, use the words and use the language of love in ways that lead viewers to actually think you hate your subject or that you love your subject. Other things to consider when you're writing is, how would you describe something to a person who's blind or who's deaf? Because that will lead you to have to think about other ways of communicating and using all of your senses. I mean, if somebody is deaf, maybe they've never heard a bird sing. So how would you describe that? And then and then keep going with that concept, and then maybe write something technical. So describe a new iPhone to somebody who's never used an iPhone, and describe it using technical terms as well as terms that would help somebody understand what this phone does. And again, there's all kinds of sales and marketing and persuasive writing out there as well. So what if you're trying to convince somebody to do something? How would you write a piece that would convince somebody to take a point of view, or to buy a product that you're selling, or to, make a phone call to support a concept? Think of all these things and do a writing exercise on each, and it should be really helpful for you. So bottom line on all of this is, be authentic. Don't try to be Ernest Hemingway. He already exists. You're a unique person with your own writing style, your own experiences, and your own way of doing things. If your writing doesn't feel right, it probably isn't you. If you're not comfortable, or you find yourself thinking, well, how would Hemingway do this? Or how would Toni Morrison do this? Then it's not you. And your reader will notice that right off the bat. And you probably notice it as well. If you're reading a lot of books, you probably notice certain things that authors do that you can immediately go to and say, oh, that's Hemingway, that's Stephen King, that's Toni Morrison. But it's not you. So my point is that you need to write in a way that you feel comfortable, and make that your voice, and then play around with what you can do. Know yourself. As a writer, it's important to know what you're passionate about, what you fear, what you like, what you don't like. And finding your voice takes practice. Again, if you've been writing for a long time, you've probably already found your voice. And if you know what you like to read or how you want to present yourself to the world, that's really important. And you need to practice that. Again, my voice is more in the humorous vein. I like that the most. I can write in other formats, but that takes practice, and really, it's one of the things that's very hard for me is being really, really honest in my work, and really getting to those feelings when I write dramatic scenes. But anything with humor, I am really comfortable with that. And I think you'll be able to tell what you're comfortable with as well as you practice. And again, finding your voice is a winding path. It's not that you're going to sit down one day and just have it be there. It's going to evolve over time. And I think it's important to note that don't be discouraged if you think you're having trouble finding a voice. Just keep writing, keep practicing exercises, give yourself topics to write about and how you feel about them. When you have a big feeling, why are you feeling this way? Write about it. See how your voice exists on the page. And again, the last thing I can say is just write. You're not going to find your voice if you don't write. You might find it as a storyteller, and then just translate that to the page. But the important thing to do is to write. And that's the end of the presentation. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop sharing now.
No, don't stop sharing, Nancy.
Oh,
Because,
okay.
right, because
Oh.
Jeanette, one of our guests, has asked for you to show the slides again with your various examples.
There you go. Ernest Hemingway.
Okay, and then I assume your slides are available for us to email if we have
Yes, they
requests?
are available to email, and as I understand it, this presentation is being recorded, so they can go back and view the presentation again.
Okay, great. All right, so the floor is open. Throw us your worst, your toughest, your biggest questions.
And if we don't have any other questions, Lee, where have you been published before? I know Crow's Feed.
Oh yeah, sure. So my personal story is I published a book 20 years ago, which is still on the market, and now through my writing with Medium, most of my work is on Crow's Feet, and I do a little bit of work with the narrative arc and the wind foam. And then I also have another publication I work with. It's called Just Thoughts. Uh, so you can find my work out there. And my writing style is, I write about technology, food, family, and the weather. And then whatever else I feel like in the morning, because I'm trying real hard to create at least 500 to 600 words per day and get it out there.
Yeah, Lee is much more prolific than I am. I started writing a long, long time ago. I've been published in the LA Times and Chicago Tribune. Um, but most of my work has been in online humor publications like The Belladonna, Slackjaw, Points in Case, Old Lady Comedy. Um, I also had a segment featured on John Krasinski's Some Good News. So if if you look at any of those publications and see what I've been writing, you'll see where my voice is definitely in the humor, sarcastic, satirical end of things. And that's really, that's kind of always been my voice. It's how I talk, basically, kind of a smart ass. Um, but I think, these two examples here that are up now on the screen are really good because they're so different. And you'll find your voice somewhere like these two found theirs. And I think
Okay.
it's great to see that. Lee, we have other questions?
Well, sure. So Muriel has asked if other people say they recognize your work and the way you wrote it, is that considered to be your voice?
I would say yes. A lot of people can say, they say things like they recognize Stephen King's voice. And, what they're talking about is his style of presentation, how he, again, how he puts words on a page. And I would say the same thing for Toni Morrison and Ernest Hemingway.
Okay. All right. And another question is a good way to start writing through journaling, just to get used to writing?
I would say yes. And the reason I would say that, and it's with one caveat, that you're not just writing a Dear Diary kind of thing, that you're putting in your feelings, you're using descriptive phrasing, um, there's a reason you're journaling. And what is that reason that you're journaling? Are you trying to persuade somebody? Are you describing a humorous experience? Are you simply cataloging things that happen to you on a given day? So that's the caveat that I would say, and that's a great opportunity to kind of use your voice. What would you say, Lee?
Sure. I agree. Uh, I've got quite a lot of thoughts actually about journaling, and I think you've pretty much hit on it. Uh, Plus, we have quite a few other comments and questions. So, Holly is sent a question that says she writes what she feels like for the moment, 50% serious, 50% heartfelt, and serious and heartfelt, and then 50% humor and sarcasm. She's wondering if that works if you try to put it all into one singular voice.
Um, hmm. Now it's interesting she asked that question because I've been working on a novel and the novel is very serious, but there are times when my protagonist makes a smart ass comment, but it's always in context with what's going on in the scene. So I would say yes. And there are certainly parts of Stephen King's work that I remember, had some smart stuff going on, some humor, because the scene was either so ridiculous. I mean, seriously, it was serious, but kind of ridiculous, and there was humor to be found within it.
Okay, fair enough. All right, and then another question. Sean has asked if you have had instances where even though you feel your voice is authentic, that you want to challenge it to go in a different direction.
Yes, absolutely. Um, and that can be a little hard to do. Me personally, I am much better equipped to deal with something with humor. And that, I believe, is kind of deflecting your emotions a little bit. I use humor as a way of and I shouldn't say this, like psychology. But sometimes I use humor to keep people away or to deflect from something that's really painful. So when I get around to writing something that's really impactful, I find I have to really tell myself, don't write this unless you're going to be absolutely honest about it, and keep the humor out. Don't deflect. So I would say, yeah, there are things you have to keep in mind when you switch from humor to drama or just really serious stuff. And that's me personally. Lee, I don't know how you feel.
I have no comment.
But oh, thanks.
we,
Way to help out, Lee.
yeah, but we have a few more questions and comments here. All right, so Muriel makes the statement that she keeps feeling the way she writes is childish or childlike, but nobody else agrees. How does she know if she is right or wrong?
How does it feel, Muriel? Do you feel good when you're writing the piece? Is that how you always write? Because if that's how you always write, then that is probably your voice. And the fact that there are people who are telling you it's not childlike is indicative of who your audience is going to be. And we should all understand that we're not going to be able to please every audience, every reader out there is not going to be attracted to our work. So, you're writing for yourself, and you're writing for people who find your work interesting. So I wouldn't look at it as saying, you feel it's childish. If you feel that way, it's up to you to change your voice. But if that's how you're consistently writing and you're comfortable writing that way, I wouldn't stop doing that.
And to add to that, Nancy, we all tend to report up to an editor of some sort, and so shouldn't we be getting guidance of that nature from the editor?
Yes, although I find as one of Crow's Feet editors, the last thing I'm going to do is change a writer's voice. I may tell them when a sentence is unclear or when the story itself isn't well formed. There will be some, and again, I haven't had the privilege yet of having a novel published, but I imagine when I've had them edited, by an editor I've hired to look at it, they really, crossed out words or said this plot point doesn't make sense, or, I'm not getting enough of this character. They're not necessarily critiquing my voice. They're critiquing plot structure and sentence structure or things that are unclear.
Okay. All right. And then a person named DS, according to my chat, says that they are starting to write a book right now at the age of 60, which we love that, seeing that we're Crow Seat. Um, I would like and appreciate any help to figure out how to get it published.
If I had the answer to that, I would be a gazillionaire. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, Deb, the important thing is to finish it. There are lots of online places that you can, Google for writing expertise. Be very careful. You want to find an agent that will represent your book. Um, there are all kind, Publishers Marketplace will give you a list of agents. I think it's $25 a month or something, but you can get a pass for a day and find agents who are interested in your work. Have it read by tons of people beforehand to give you a critique of what's working and what's not working. And, have a very strong query letter before you send it out. But yeah, that's the struggle. Trust me. I also work in the screenplay mode, and that's been the biggest hurdle, is just finding people who will take on a new writer or a spec script. It's what everybody struggles with. So you're not alone.
yeah. It is a big challenge. It's even a challenge sometimes to find an agent who is willing to take you on.
Yep.
But once again, there's multiple avenues that you can follow, self-publishing, up through Amazon, for example. I know some people that are doing that. There are independent publishers that are into print on demand, which is how I printed or published my book 20 years ago. Because that whole industry just kind of was getting started at the time. And then nowadays, what I've heard from other people in the publishing industry is, for every one book they bring in to edit and review and take to market, they've got close to 3,000 manuscripts sitting out there that they had to turn down.
Yep.
So it's a big challenge. But we're writers, which means that we're relentless. So you just got to keep pushing. All right,
That's
let's
right.
we've got 4.5 minutes left, and gosh, a whole slew of questions here still. Kelly asks, would you recommend writing about always the same topic on Medium?
No. I would recommend you stretch your wings and write about all kinds of things. Crow's Feet is writing about life as we age, but there are all kinds of things about food and parenting and travel, and stretch your wings. If you have an interesting story, tell it. Doesn't have to be in the same, for the same publication. That's the fun part. There are tons of publications on Medium that you can write for. And that's kind of how I got, started and got some published, got some credits, was just submitting to those publications.
Okay, good answer. And then Michael says, some writers say editing and rewriting is the most important part of writing. How often do you do that on average?
Yeah, I'm horrible with that. I edit all the time. I walk away from it, I come back, I edit, and I edit as I go. You want a very tight manuscript, you want a very tight article, you want every word to count. You don't want to have long-winded explanations that you don't need. You want to write with clarity and with motivation. So I would say, edit as often as you feel until you get to the point where there's nothing else you can take away.
Yeah, I agree. I do the same thing. I tend to be more critical of myself than my editors are.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, my objective is to make the editor's job as easy as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and so first and foremost, running it through, an online editor just to get the grammar and punctuation and proofreading as correct as possible.
Yes.
Yeah, and and then letting the editor, just be my first audience that I take it to. Okay, let's squeeze in one more question here. Andrea asked if you could talk quickly about how you shape the different voices of your main characters.
Oh, I've used different dialects with main characters. I imagine their personalities before I imagine their background. Where do they come from? Are they, a kid of the street? Are they a kid of rural America? Are they, educated, non-educated, shy, introverted, extroverted, and those kinds of things? If you give them those characteristics, then you'll know which of your characters is going to not talk as often, or is going to talk with an accent or a certain slang. If you do just a mini bio, doesn't have to be anything extensive, it will tell you what your character is going to be.
Okay. All right. So, for those of y'all who we just flat ran out of time, that we can't get to your questions, I feel bad. You've got great comments and some great questions. I'd like to carry on the conversation. I don't know how sort of
They
giving
can,
you our email addresses, for you
yeah.
to converse with us. If that's something you would like to do, Nancy, or
Yeah, absolutely. If they want, they can connect directly with me. My address or my email address is nancykranklin@earthlink.net. And don't laugh, I've had it for like 30 years.
I am laughing.
Yeah, I
Earthlink,
know.
Earthlink died years ago, but that's
Yes, it
okay.
did.
All right, and I don't mind giving you guys my email address also, which is just Lee, Lee, at Bentch, first initial last name.com. And
And Bench is Bentch.
correct. All right. So we thank you very, very much, everybody, and have a great day.
Yeah, thank you very much.